So today we're going to be discussing the Master of Architecture, which is a postgraduate degree available at Notre Dame Fremantle campus in Western Australia. My name's Hannah. I am one of the prospective student advisors at the campus, but we're very lucky to be joined by two of the senior lecturers in the degree. So I'll get them to introduce themselves.
Oh, hi, I'm Lara MacKintosh. I am one of the academics, one of the staff members at the new Master of Architecture at Notre Dame. I'm very excited to be here.
Hi, I'm Robyn Creagh. I'm one of the senior lecturers here in the architecture program. I'll be throwing a little bit into the group chat, so feel free to interact with me there as well.
Okay, so let's get going, and like Robyn said, any questions along the way, feel free to put them into the chat and interact there. So starting off about why you would choose Notre Dame as an institution to come and study your Master of Architecture. One of the main reasons that are actually supported by students have studied with us are evident in our quality indicators of learning and teaching results. So these results have come from past postgraduate students who have been surveyed about their time at Notre Dame. And for postgraduate studies, Notre Dame currently is #1 in Australia in a range of categories. So learner engagement, skills development, student support, and teaching quality, which are obviously all really important things that you'd be looking for in your degree. You'll hear more about the teaching quality a little bit later in the presentation, as well as the skills development and learner engagement. There are also a number of reasons why students choose Notre Dame. So first up, the location of our campus in Fremantle. We'll hear a little bit more about that as well, but the location is within the west end of Fremantle. It's a port city, so there are cafes, there are restaurants, there are private businesses, close to public transport. So it's a really ideal location if you're looking at a uni to study at. You will have the opportunity to learn from experts. As I mentioned, we'll hear a bit more about this from Lara and Robyn, but our academics have all got great skills in both the teaching areas, but they're also still involved in practice. There are opportunities as well to progress to research if that is something that you're looking at. So depending on your research background, you might be looking at something like a PhD or a Master's in Research. And then finally there, Notre Dame is the smallest uni in WA. We have small cohorts, which means that you'll be treated like a person and not a number. That's a overview of where we are located in Fremantle. So the purple buildings are where we have our campus located. And then you have close by Bathers Beach and the Fremantle train and bus station. And you can see the city in the distance there, so about 30 minutes from Fremantle station to Perth station. So it's a thriving location and a perfect setting for architecture. And so that leads me to pass over to Lara, who's going to share a bit more about the degree at Notre Dame.
Hi, so I'm just going to grab control from Hannah and say hi to Shayla, is it, who's visiting us. And Shayla, you've asked us a question about international students. Yes, we do. There are some, you're asking some very specific questions that are, we can perhaps deal with towards the end once we've spoken about it. And also you can contact our international office and they are the ones who know all about it. They're my go-to guys for any international applications that we have. Great. So, Shayla, I would like to welcome you into the discussion if you want to turn your microphone on and ask us some questions, or you can keep doing the chat. You're more than welcome to join in whatever way you feel more comfortable doing. But we're going to run through a bit of a presentation. Robyn and I are going to have a bit of a conversation. And if you have any questions, feel free to either pipe up or send us a chat question and we can deal with it as they come up. So I hope that's okay with you. We're very excited to be able to offer this program at the University of Notre Dame. The Master of Architecture is at the moment a master only, and I'm assuming that for many people they are coming with an architectural background. So that means having completed a Bachelor of Architecture. Most of the students we have at the moment are domestic students, so they come from an Australian degree. If you're interested, we have had some interest from an international, from people international as well who have completed a bachelor program or more elsewhere, and that is more than possible. It just means we need to have a bit of a conversation around the previous work that you have been doing. So Ishita, I wonder what your background is, if you're coming from an architectural background or perhaps it's landscape or interior. They're the pathways that we have into our program. And we have selected those programs to be the pathways so that you come with the skills and the knowledge that is expected of a Master of Architecture student. There are some pretty specific skills around communication, in particular visual communication, but also an understanding of architecture and architectural systems and the context of architecture that is required, which means that we require people to come with those particular pathways that are aligned. If you are listening to this and you come from a different pathway, your bachelor is in something else, or you are interested after a fair bit of work, for example, we are very excited to offer a Bachelor of Architecture next year, and that may be a pathway for you as well. So I encourage you to have a look at that.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, how are you? I'm very well, thanks. Thank you for all the information and thanks for the presentation. So just, I want to introduce myself. My name is Shayla and I have studied architecture. Like I have a bachelor in architecture and a master's in interior design. And I have worked in Australia, and a few months ago, I started working as an education agent. And so I am in contact with many students because of my work, and also because of my own degree that is in architecture and interior design. I give counseling to many students who are interested in studying architecture. So I wanted to be in this presentation to get more information about the course at Notre Dame University. So I have like the most updated information. So when I talk to students, so I want my information to be updated and in detail, and that's why I'm here today.
That's great. Thanks, Shida.
Thank you.
And thank you for introducing yourself as well. It's very interesting, I think, to hear about your background. And I think it's also very interesting to hear about the interest in the program internationally as well. And I think your questions are applicable for domestic and international students. The pathway that we have into our program it's one of the points of difference, because at the moment we don't have a bachelor program, and so we do accept students from different pathways. So it's really wonderful to be able to sort of, I guess, identify what those pathways might be. So thank you for that.
And Shayla, sorry, I'll just jump in. Like Lara said, we can put you in contact with our international team. They usually work with our education agents, so they would be able to provide more detail about your visa questions. So we might, before we finish, get your contact details. And we'll put you in direct contact with them, because they would also be able to update you about all of our courses and relevant information, not just architecture.
Yes, that would be perfect. Thank you very much. Well, at the same time, I would like to know more about the architecture, like Master of Architecture course, because when I give counseling services to the students, when I have like details about the course itself, and like except for the visa and admission things. If I know more about the course itself, I can give them better information, and so I can like engage them more and motivate them for the course more. That's why I would like to like in from a, I want to hear it like from a student perspective. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And jump in with questions as well if that's absolutely what we're going to try and tell you all about today. But if we're missing something or there's some little detail you want to pick up on, please just jump on in.
Awesome, thank you very much. So I will send you my contact information in the chat box, and it would be awesome if you could pass it to your international team, and I'll be grateful to listen to your presentation today. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Sheila.
So Lara, maybe we should, we've got a couple of bullet points up there, and it's, for me, that's kind of a point of difference. How would you say how would you sum up what's great about or what's special about our course?
Well, I can talk about it from what I really like about our course, which is it's small, and it's small by design. I think it's wonderful to have a really small cohort. So by small we mean maximum classes of 20 to 25, which is really refreshing. And I think the benefit of that means that the students can really connect with each other. As part of that, we have dedicated spaces that we'll talk a little bit more, and we've got some pictures obviously later on. And students do really get to know each other. But from my point of view, it really means that we get to know our students as well, and we can keep, we can really make sure that we attend to their needs. And that is one of the critical things with Notre Dame. It places the care of its students at the core of of everything that they do. And I've noticed that all of the staff involved in architecture have taught elsewhere, and it is a massive point of difference with Notre Dame, is that the smallness and the contact that we have with the students means that we can really attend to the needs, but not just the needs, but also the aspirations of the students. And part of that is related to that practicum component.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask about.
That as well?
Sorry?
How do you find it? What's your point of difference for Notre Dame?
No, I think you're bang on there, but I like in particular the way that the approach to the individual extends to the way the practicum runs. And that's your third point there. And I think it's a bit of a point of difference between other architecture programs. So, you know, what is that practicum?
So the practicum is first and foremost unique in Australia. We are the first program to run this, and being small is the reason we can do that. If we had a class of 100, it would be very difficult to place everybody in a practice. And by place, I mean that our students are in practice 1 day a week. We have a group of practices who have agreed to come on board as partners. The students are placed in those practices, and the work that they're doing in practice is not the work for the practice, but work for their assessment. So it may be wrapped around a project that comes from that practice, but the students are working on their assignments in practice. And during that 1 day, they're not sitting with an architect all day, every day. While they're there, they will touch base with an architect and with the practice partner, but they're working mostly independent, but surrounded by the hubbub of the practice when they're there face to face, or if they're not, they're able to touch base with the practice regularly throughout that day. And they also get access to not only the people, but the knowledge and the resources that they have as well. And that continues throughout the entire program for every semester. So for us, that's quite exciting to be able to do that. And one of the reasons that we can do that is, sorry, I'm expecting that slide to go across. Great. Hannah, I wonder if you can just maybe put us onto that 6th slide. Thank you. One of the reasons that we can do this is the people that we have on our team. So myself, I'm a registered architect and have been practicing in various forms for about 15 years. Actually more than that, 20 maybe? How embarrassing. But I'm also quite active in some of the other organisations we have within our profession as well, like the Institute, the Australian Institute of Architects, a couple of other like-minded organisations around learning environments and similarly. So my connections to practice, along with everybody else, are very strong, and it's those relationships that enable us to be able to do the Practicum program. Robyn, did you want to talk a bit about yourself?
Yeah, so basically, as it says there, I am a teacher. I'm also a facilitator for external organisations when they need it, and I'm very much a researcher as well. And the research that I do is very applied, which means that I'm collaborating with groups external to the university to do something that's really meaningful for what's going on with them. So yeah, and when I'm working in the classroom with students, I'm bringing that wealth of experience to the classroom, and it's very much about communities and organisations and how collaborations occur to make you know, what we think about as an urban context. So yeah, that's kind of me, and I guess that's what I bring to the team as kind of my emphasis, is that nexus between research and education and academia.
And I think then with the two other primary staff members that we have, Simon Pendle and Catherine Ash, both of whom are practicing architects and run their own independent and separate architectural practices, as well as teaching here primarily in the studio. And what Simon and Catherine both bring to the classroom is their practice. And Robyn, you spoke about that nexus between research and practice, and I think these guys bring to the classroom their practice, that nexus between the profession and academia as well. And it's very exciting to see the opportunities that they offer the students, building not only on their own experiences as developing their practices, but helping students navigate through that very complex task of setting their own position in architecture, which is what we aim to do here in the Notre Dame program. Oh, did that jump on? No. So one of the other, we've been speaking a bit about the points of difference at the Notre Dame program, the small cohorts and what that means. And on the slides here, you see an example of exactly what that means. So here we have practitioners and students in an in-class review for the technology class, believe it or not. And what's really exciting about this is that it's a little bit different in that practitioners get to speak to each other and discuss their experiences with the students, and students also get to review their peers' works and discuss together about what they're experiencing in practice. And that happens in those particular units around professional practice and technology, but we also do the same thing in studios and the same thing in our context and research units as well. So the shared experience and the coming together as a community is quite important.
I think that's such a perfect photo, Lara. You wouldn't know if you don't know the people, but right there you've got standing side by side, student practitioner, and
Yep.
you can see a couple of other students in the background there. So that it's really a full and engaging conversation that gets had.
Absolutely. And what's exciting is that the work that they're looking at on the wall isn't the work of anybody in that picture.
Oh, really? Yeah, that adds another layer to it. That's great.
Exactly. So there's a lot of sharing that goes on, which is one of the things that is possible because of our size, where it's easy to manipulate and to create those kinds of experiences, which is I find personally very, very rewarding. So in relation to that, also we can talk a little bit about our staff-student ratio. So as we are capped at 20 to 25 in our class, then that remains the staff-student ratio, and the access that you have to staff is reflective of that. Sorry, Hannah, I might need to call you.
Sorry to interrupt. Can I ask the ratio of international students and domestic students in the classroom?
Currently, we have all domestic students. Last year was our first year of intake, and so all of our students come from Perth. We have had some interest from interstate, and this year we're starting to get some interest internationally as well. But at the moment we don't have any students international enrolments.
But we'd be happy to.
We absolutely would
Thank
be
you.
happy to.
Thank you.
We do have, so Shayla, we have had some interest, and I've had a chat to a couple of students who are international students, but yeah, so we're very excited about it as we are getting, I guess, more and more, as the news of our program is getting more and more out there.
Mm-hmm.
So I will also say, just because it's something that has occurred to me and it might be of interest while I'm talking about the news of our program getting out there, we do have an Instagram account as well, which you can find at Fremantle School of Architecture, all one word, no gap. And that we're using that Instagram account to showcase the work of our students, the work of our staff, and identify any opportunities for extracurricular events that are coming up onto the radar here in Fremantle and broader than that. So check it out. It's really interesting to see. At the moment, I think the second to last post has been about our intensive studio, which is happening in a few weeks. And so that brings me on to the structure of the program. So in year one, as you can see through there, it's going to feel very familiar for those who have come through an architectural program. There's 50 credits of design studio each semester, and that is accompanied by a technology or professional unit, and then also a contexts and or research unit. The way that we structure the timetabling for our course and the way that we think about the learning experience within our program is such that we do actually recognise that life is complex, maybe even more so now than it has been in the past, and that many of our students are balancing many things in their lives. And so we endeavour to provide an experience and opportunity for them that can accommodate that. So for the contexts and research and technology and practice units, they are held typically later in the afternoon, and we have our studios held on a single day. And what that does for us is it releases time for the students not only to have their one day in practice, but also to have other things going on in their life that they can then balance with. So
yeah, it just lets them structure their lives the way they need to, no matter what the complexity is. It doesn't reduce the workload in any way, but it, rather than a turn up to high school scenario where it's all day, every day, and you have no choice in how your time is spent, it really lets students take responsibility and manage their own, manage their own demands on their time, whatever those might be.
Awesome. Sorry, and can they stay at the university after their classes finish so they can work together on their project?
Yeah, absolutely. Studios are open. So at the moment, where we only have the 2 master's students and we have 2 teaching spaces, so the space is occupied by the students during their classes and outside of classes as well. But the university does close at 10 p.m. and we're actually pretty in favour of that because I'm sure, Shayla, you know architecture students very well. This habit of burning the midnight oil can be a little bit too much. So we're quite happy that everyone gets sent home at 10 p.m.
Yes, I've been there. Not sleeping for 3 days.
And it's it doesn't produce good work, and it doesn't produce healthy students or healthy architects. So no, we're not really.
Yes, absolutely right.
And we are very mindful of the well-being of students as well, I think, and that's kind of part of it.
Perfect.
The other point of difference, or not the other point, the thing I would like to also mention is that for students who are coming who have maybe already had some learning in a master's program, you are able to bring that with you and apply for advanced standing or recognition of prior learning, depending on how you recognise it. And so if people are partway through their masters then they are more than welcome to apply, and we can have the discussion around the work that they have already done. As long as it aligns with the curricula that we have, then we are more than welcome to have a look at that as well. And while we're on this slide, I just wanted to bring to people's attention one of the other points of difference, because we are at Notre Dame, and every student at Notre Dame must do some core units. And in the master's programs, that core unit is around ethics. And so you can see in semester 2, we have ethical issues in professional life. Robyn, did you want to talk a little bit about that, or?
I just think it's a really useful one, and one of the wonderful things about our curriculum is how all of the individual courses that you can see listed here actually provide information that students are then able to put into practice and apply in other courses as well. So for example, ethical issues in professional life, which is actually run by the philosophy department in Notre Dame, helps students to think through some of the professional issues that get brought up in their practicums, particularly in the second year around practice, but also in the first year around the technology choices that are made as well. So they tackle these big ethical questions around environment, society, practice, how you practice as an ethical architect, and that conversation doesn't get locked just into that one unit which is run by the philosophy course. There's opportunities for people to be expanding that in the other courses as well. Hey, looks like someone else has just joined us as well. Hi Richard, how are you doing? If you've got any questions, just throw them in the chat, or turn your microphone on and say hello.
Hi all, it's actually Richard here from the events team. I'm just popping in to see how things are going.
We're doing fine, mate.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Sorry I missed most of the presentation, but nice
Hi,
to see
Richard.
your faces anyway.
No worries.
It's being recorded, Richard.
Yes, it is. Thank you for the reminder.
So Robyn, I just wanted to add on to what you were talking about with the ethical issues in professional life, because I think we also expand the notion of what ethics might mean to include social ethics and environmental ethics, as well as what it takes to conduct yourself as an architect ethically and professionally. And I'm really excited about that, I think. Yeah, it's pretty good. Robyn spoke a bit about that ethical issues in professional life, expanding and extending into the thinking that happens in the other units or courses. And I think the intensive studio is also another opportunity. We run an intensive studio every winter, and students have an opportunity to take that in either their first or their second year. We've pulled together a 2 to 3 year time frame for that, and it can include different things depending on what's available and what the situation is. So it can include a study tour when people are travelling, but it can also include, it allows the staff and guests to really explore things that are important to architecture but sit beyond the standard curriculum, and give students an opportunity to do an intense and a short but a very deep dive into some really interesting and exciting areas of architecture that can then thread through their future studies. And so it's a very exciting opportunity, I think, to really put things to one side for a moment and do what I like to call that deep dive, and have a really really good swim around in some really exciting stuff. So it's a very good opportunity, I think, to be able to either deepen your understanding of something you're familiar with, or put on a whole new set of glasses and look at things through a completely different lens, depending on how you want to play it. We might just flick to the next slide, please, Hannah. And so in the second year, once again, it feels very similar to the first and probably to your bachelor's program. And the work that is done in this second year is an opportunity for students to really consolidate their position on architecture. The approach that is taken with this program in general and overall is that students are here to establish their position, what architecture means for them, and therefore what it can mean for others. And that can be quite challenging. It can be a way of strengthening existing values, or it can be a way of shifting them. And in this second year, you're building on the work that you had done in the first year, as well as the work that you had done in your bachelor program, and really starting to think about what architecture and the practice of architecture means for you. The practicums are extended through into this year as well, and it's possible with this practicum program, with the 4 different semesters that it's available, for you to be placed in 4 different practices, or you can be placed in one practice over a year. It depends on how you want to tailor your experience and where you want to head and what your aspirations are. And what is interesting is that you get an opportunity in practice, as well as in the classroom, as well as in the own research that you are developing as part of your capstone project, to really explore and to strengthen what your position can be on architecture, and align that with your aspirations. And that itself, I think, is quite exciting too.
It makes me think, Lara, that the way that this course is set up and the way that we manage it, we're really inviting students to be quite self-directed, but at the same time, the learning environment is so supportive. So it's kind of nice to be able to say, yeah, it's both of those things. It's not fend for yourself, but it's definitely set your own agenda within this really supportive framework.
Absolutely, and I think the support is the really critical thing, that students are guided through this. They're able to do and really challenge themselves and do what is a very hard thing to do, with the support and the guide of the staff that we have here, which in itself is quite lovely. The other thing that I have found within all of this as well is that while there's certain skills and knowledge that you must learn when you do architecture, there are also some non-technical skills which are just as valuable once you leave and once you complete your program and leave to practice architecture in whatever way you wish. And some of those non-technical skills are around interpersonal skills, around the self-direction that you've mentioned. And to be honest, they're gold. They're absolute gold when you get out into the world and into the practice of architecture. And I talk about it. The practice of architecture, I think, for all of us in Notre Dame, extends beyond a typical practice and can be seen in many of the different activities that we and our practice partners do. For example, the Fremantle Biennale last year that Simon and Catherine participated in, and the placemaking work that you do.
Shall we take a look at the next slide?
I'm just trying to, I still can't have control of it. Thanks, Hannah. So in relation to that, and the different ways in which architecture is practiced, we engage with the professional community, both here in not just in Fremantle, but obviously in Perth and in WA as well, with the new experiences and skills we now have with remote learning. I feel like our connections are extended, and in fact, in this year's winter intensive, the guest architects we have running that will be dialing into Denmark, in Copenhagen in Denmark, to connect with some people through there. And in the image that you can see on the slide, we have Louise Wright, who's originally from Perth but now practicing in Melbourne, who came over and gave the inaugural lecture at our exhibition last year. And it was very exciting to see just how many, not only how many people we had in the room, but the depth to which she was talking about her practice, the meaning that it has for her and for others, and her connection to place and environment. And hearing from others about how they practice architecture is one of the most valuable things that we can do, I feel. It also allows us an opportunity to be cross-disciplinary. We are located within the School of Arts and Science, and as such we are connected to disciplines like environmental management, biological science, which for those who are interested in environment and climate and its relationship to architecture is very valuable. But we are also connected within the arts to history, social justice, archaeology, which once again gives us a unique opportunity to be able to connect to those academics and really use them as resources as well, which is very exciting. Might just move on to the next slide, please, Hannah. Thank you. And here you can see, I love this photo. This is at the start of our exhibition last year, our inaugural exhibition last year, before things really kicked off. And what I really like about this photo is that in this photo, you get a little snapshot of what it means to study architecture at Notre Dame. So in this photo, I can see students, I can see the parents and the sisters and brothers of students and their friends as well. I can see a research student that we now have doing a Master of Philosophy here at Notre Dame in architecture. I can see some of our practice partners. I can see staff from Notre Dame beyond the school, beyond the architecture. So the School of Arts and Science staff have come down and seen what's available here as well. So it's very exciting to be able to think that we can bring all these people together in the one room for an event and really share not just the final outcomes, but the process of design and the steps that were taken that got the students to that particular point. So it was wonderful to be able to see that on the night. It was equally wonderful to be able to showcase some of the buildings that we have here at Notre Dame in the city of Fremantle as well. And this is a particularly beautiful building in Prendeville Hall, which is just beautiful. So yeah, thank you. And so the work that you see here and the work that our students do means that in studio, you get to explore many different things. And as we've said through there, it's heritage, public place and community. But in doing that, and setting your position on those key themes, you bring into that the work that you, and the thoughts that you're having and the critical thinking and the knowledge and skills that you're learning in your other courses and other units to design, and vice versa. So there's this real integration across the different units that we run that allows you to really explore, and as I was talking about before, consolidate your position and develop your position on architecture. And it's that sort of cross-curriculum of the different subjects that I find particularly exciting, because it allows us to really break down some of those barriers that might exist. But also as staff, it means that we're engaged across the entire program and we're aware of what's going on. And that is in part made possible because of our size. And for those who are, who've just come on board, in a class of 20 to 25, it's more than possible for us to be on top of and aware of the work that is being done in the other subjects that are being run at the same time. And it also allows us to reach out. I've been talking about a community a fair bit, but I mean, not just our professional community, but the community of Fremantle as well, and some of the relationships that we have extended out through the work that we're doing in those studios that are focused around, at the moment, focused around and centred on the city of Fremantle. It gives us a great way of connecting the work that we do, and the students really respond to being able to think about the impact of their work in the town of Fremantle and in that city and the fabric of that city.
Yeah, I think it gives an opportunity to practice. I say practice, but it's kind of for real at the same time, working in a really grounded and concrete way, rather than something that's quite abstract. And I feel like that's something that's quite special about the way that we have developed this program and the way that we deliver it as well.
Yeah, I agree. And what I do really like about it as well is that it gives you an opportunity, gives students an opportunity to test out ideas in like for real. You go out and talk to people, you're actually seeing the buildings that you're drawing and all that, and it's just so exciting, so exciting. The next slide, please, Hannah. A question was asked earlier, and for those who have joined us, you're able to, I think you're able to record this, view this recording, but a question was asked about our facilities, and this is a picture from, this photo is a view out of our window onto the high street of Fremantle. And it's very, I love being in Fremantle, and I think it's wonderful to be able to have the two studios that we have in Fremantle, which are available to students outside of formal class as well. And so it's beautiful to see how the students inhabit the space and make it theirs. The other thing that I love about it is that these are spaces that have been relifed. So one of the studios is in an old bank and the other one is in a chapel. And what's so exciting about that is that you get a sense of place and belonging that and contributing to a story that is extended and bigger than self. And it's wonderful to be able to offer that to students as well. I think perhaps the next slide. Thanks, Hannah. Hannah, did you want to talk about this or?
Yes, maybe if I do an overview and then you can add on to it. So for the application for Notre Dame, whether you're applying as a domestic or an international student, it's direct to the university via our website. And so you would be filling out the application form online, uploading your academic transcript so we can see your education background, and then any additional supporting documents. So particularly for international applicants, that would include English proficiency details and other documents that our international office would ask for. But we also ask you to submit things like your resume, any references that you have, and Lara, I know we'll talk a little bit more about the sort of portfolio in a moment. Once that's all submitted, it's going to be assessed by our admissions office, and so then they will let you know if there's anything further you need to do. In particular, the international office will most likely reach out and request some additional documentation. And then
can I ask you about just a question in the chat here around the timelines and the deadlines on that?
Yes, yeah. So there is a semester 1 and semester 2 intakes for this degree. So for the mid-year intake, really you'd want to be applying now, and we can keep accepting applications until semester 2 begins at the end of July. Or if you're looking at semester 1 next year, then ideally towards the end of November for that one. But really, especially for international students, the timeline can be a bit different. So that's why I think for you, Shayla, we'll put you in contact to get the more specifics with the timeline there. And I'm not sure about our other Shahrazad, if you are an international student or a domestic student, I guess the message is submit an application.